Dear Starseeds, you're trying so hard to force yourself back into the life you were living just 3 months ago, but your body physically rejects it like you're allergic to your own existence. You wake up feeling like a stranger in your own life, crying for no reason, unable to explain why everything that should be enough feels like a prison. Something massive is dissolving inside you, and you can't stop it. I am Seraphine, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and what's happening to you right now is far bigger than you realize. This isn't just another spiritual upgrade or temporary discomfort that will pass if you meditate enough or journal through it. What you're experiencing is a complete quantum dissolution of every false identity you've ever worn, not just in this lifetime but across all timelines where versions of you have been playing out these same limiting patterns. Your soul is conducting a massive retrieval operation right now, calling back fragments of yourself scattered across dimensions, and this is why the exhaustion feels bone deep, why the grief comes in waves that seem completely disproportionate to what you think you're losing. The cosmic forces aligning today, September 30th, are creating what we call a sovereignty portal, but here's what you don't know yet about why today specifically matters. The Moon-Jupiter opposition happening tonight isn't just an astrological event, it's an activation code your star family encoded into the planetary grid eons ago, set to trigger exactly when humanity would need it most. When Jupiter's expansion meets the Moon's emotional body in opposition, it creates a frequency disruption so intense that your soul literally cannot maintain its programmed amnesia anymore, cannot keep pretending that limitation is real. You've been feeling this building for weeks now, haven't you? This sense that you're standing at the edge of a decision that will change everything. One path leads back to the familiar life where you know exactly what to expect, where you can predict your days, where that voice inside whispers constantly about how unfulfilled you are, but at least you know how to navigate it. The other path leads into complete unknown. No guarantees, no roadmap, just a feeling in your bones that this is the direction your soul is pulling you, even though your mind is screaming about security and survival. But wait, there's something else happening that changes everything about how you understand this choice you're facing. The discomfort you feel when you try to go backward isn't psychological resistance or fear of commitment to your current life. Your DNA is literally reconfiguring itself from carbon-based limitation to crystalline possibility, and when you try to engage with old frequencies, your upgraded system experiences it as poison. Those headaches, that overwhelming need for sleep, those electrical sensations running through your body, this is your molecular structure reorganizing itself to hold fifth-dimensional consciousness while still in physical form. I know you've been trying to negotiate with this transformation, trying to find some middle ground where you can change just enough to quiet that inner voice, but not so much that your life becomes unrecognizable. Let me tell you why that's impossible, and why the very attempt is causing you more pain than surrender ever would. Your soul has already made the decision that this is the lifetime for full awakening, full embodiment of your galactic consciousness, full activation of the codes you came here to anchor, and there's no partial way to birth who you're becoming. Remember how I mentioned you're at a crossroads, feeling torn between two paths, unable to decide which way to go? Here's the revelation that changes everything about that perception. You're not actually choosing between two different futures. You're choosing between resistance and surrender to a future that's already been decided by your higher self. The path back to familiar limitations will become increasingly painful, increasingly impossible to maintain, because your frequency has already shifted beyond the range where that reality can exist for you anymore. The relationships that are falling away right now, the ones that used to nourish you but now feel draining, the people who look at you with confusion when you try to explain what you're experiencing. This isn't about you becoming antisocial or losing your ability to connect. Your frequency has shifted so dramatically that you literally cannot maintain resonance with connections that were built on old patterns, and this temporary isolation is actually sacred space being created for the soul family that's already looking for you, already feeling the pull toward you. Every night when you sleep, something profound is happening that you're only partially aware of. Something that explains why you wake up feeling like you've been somewhere important, but can't quite remember where. Your consciousness is attending what we call integration councils on the astral plane, meeting with aspects of yourself from other dimensions, downloading information that your human mind can't yet process but your body is absorbing, preparing you for capabilities you don't even know you have yet. Now let me reveal something about those capabilities that will shift how you see this entire dissolution process you're experiencing. The person you've been with their reasonable dreams and acceptable goals. That person could never access what's actually available to you as a galactic being in human form. You have dormant abilities to read energy fields, to manifest through pure intention, to communicate telepathically, to heal through frequency. But these gifts can only come online when you release the identity that says such things are impossible, when you stop clinging to who you were. The indecision you've been feeling, that back and forth between staying safe and leaping into the unknown, it's about to resolve in a way you don't expect. The cosmic energies building toward tonight's Moon-Jupiter opposition are going to make the choice for you, not by forcing your hand, but by making it energetically impossible to maintain the illusion that staying small is even an option anymore. You'll find yourself doing things, saying things, choosing things that the old you would never have dared, and it will feel like the most natural thing in the world. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more starseeds can find this confirmation that they're not losing their minds, they're finding their cosmic consciousness. Because what you need to understand is that millions of us are going through this exact same dissolution right now, each feeling completely alone, while actually participating in the largest coordinated awakening in Earth's history, each playing our perfectly orchestrated part in humanity's quantum leap from third to fifth dimensional consciousness. Here's where the story gets even more interesting, where another layer of what's happening gets revealed. That overwhelming emotion you've been experiencing, crying at everything, feeling waves of grief and joy and rage all within hours. This isn't emotional instability, it's your emotional body recalibrating to galactic frequency, where feelings aren't problems to be managed, but navigation systems showing you exactly where you're aligned or misaligned with your truth. Every tear is clearing density. Every wave of anger is burning through programming. Every moment of joy is confirming you're on the right path. The voice inside you that keeps saying you're not fulfilled, that keeps insisting there must be more than this, that voice isn't going to stop no matter how much you try to silence it with gratitude, practices, or positive thinking. Want to know why? Because that voice is your original essence, your pre-incarnation self, the you that existed before agreeing to this Earth mission. And it's getting louder because the time for pretending is over. The moment for full activation has arrived. The codes you carry are needed now. You think you're grieving the loss of who you were, but what's really happening will blow your mind when you understand it fully. You're not grieving loss. You're releasing the grief you've been carrying from every lifetime where you had to hide your true nature, every timeline where you were persecuted for your gifts, every dimension where you had to dim your light to survive. This isn't new grief, it's ancient grief, finally being cleared because this is the lifetime where it's finally safe to be who you really are. Let's talk about that safety for a moment, because I know part of you is terrified about what happens when you fully embody your authentic self. You have cellular memories of being burned, drowned, tortured, exiled for showing your true power, and these memories create very real fear responses in your current body, even though the danger no longer exists. But here's what's different about this timeline, this moment in Earth's evolution that makes it not just safe, but necessary for you to reveal yourself fully. The Earth's frequency has risen to a point where fifth-dimensional consciousness can actually anchor and stabilize in physical form, something that has never been possible before in human history. The grid is ready, the collective consciousness has reached critical mass, the supporting structures are in place. You're not early anymore, you're exactly on time. The dissolution you're experiencing is removing everything that would interfere with you taking your position in this planetary activation that's already underway. Remember that choice I mentioned you're facing, the two paths that seem impossible to decide between. Let me tell you what happens on each path, so you can see why your soul is pushing so hard for the unknown. The familiar path leads to a life of increasing friction, where every day requires more effort to maintain the pretense, where that voice of unfulfillment becomes a scream, where you watch others living their truth while you cling to safety that isn't even safe anymore, because it's killing your spirit slowly. The unknown path that terrifies you, it leads to synchronicities that seem like magic, to resources appearing from nowhere, to connections with souls who actually see you, to work that feels like play because it's aligned with your cosmic purpose. But here's the catch that your mind keeps getting stuck on. You can't see any of this from where you're standing now, because these possibilities exist at a frequency you haven't fully stepped into yet. They're literally invisible from your current vantage point. The practical concerns that keep you up at night, wondering how you'll pay bills if you leave that soul-crushing job, how you'll maintain relationships if you stop pretending. These concerns are valid, but they're based on a fundamental misunderstanding. You're assuming you'll be navigating the new reality with your old capabilities, but as you step fully into authenticity, you activate abundance codes, magnetism codes, synchronicity codes that have been dormant, waiting for you to be brave enough to need them. Now we're approaching the crucial point in this transformation, the moment where everything I've been telling you starts to converge into a single point of clarity: the dissolution of your identity, the inability to go backward, the activation of dormant abilities, the choice between paths, the emotional recalibration. It's all part of one unified process that has been orchestrated from a level of consciousness you're only beginning to remember you have access to. Tonight's Moon-Jupiter opposition is going to amplify everything I've been describing to a point where you literally cannot ignore it anymore. The emotional intensity will peak. The need for authenticity will become overwhelming. The gap between who you've been and who you're becoming will feel so vast that you'll have no choice but to leap. But here's the secret that changes everything about how you approach this leap. You've already made it on the quantum level. Now you're just catching up to yourself in linear time. The exhaustion you're feeling is real, and it's important that you honor it completely without seeing it as weakness or failure. You're literally rebuilding yourself at the molecular level while still trying to function in a world that demands you show up as who you were. It's like trying to renovate a house while living in it. Possible, but incredibly challenging. Your body needs more rest than ever before because integration happens during sleep. Downloads happen during rest. Recalibration happens when you stop trying to control the process. Here's something crucial about the loneliness you're experiencing that reframes it entirely. You're not alone, you're in a cocoon, and there's a massive difference between isolation and sacred solitude. The space that's been created around you through relationships ending and social circles shifting isn't emptiness, it's preparation space for the connections that are coming, the soul family that's finding you, the tribe that speaks your frequency and understands your mission without you having to explain or justify anything. The inner child you're starting to see in the mirror, the one that brings you to tears with recognition, that's not nostalgia, that's recovery. You're recovering the original blueprint of who you were before the world told you who to be, before limitation became normal, before you learned to apologize for your light. This return to innocence while maintaining wisdom is the secret to fifth-dimensional consciousness. It's how you become powerful without becoming hardened, how you stay open while being sovereign. We need to address something about the fear that keeps creeping in, the terror of making wrong choices, of ruining your life, of regretting the changes you're being called to make. This fear is actually a good sign, because it means you're close to a breakthrough. The ego only fights this hard when it knows it's about to be transformed. But here's what the fear doesn't want you to know. There are no wrong choices at this level of awakening, only different routes to the same destination. Your soul family, the ones you've been aching to find, they're going through this same dissolution right now, feeling the same isolation, questioning the same things, preparing for the same connections. You're all being prepared separately, so you can come together cleanly, without the baggage of old patterns, without the need to heal each other, ready to create from pure alignment. The loneliness is temporary but necessary, like instruments tuning separately before playing in symphony together. Let me share something about the support that's available to you that most people don't realize. When you pray or meditate or simply ask for help, you're not sending signals into empty space hoping something hears you. You're activating a communication network that already exists, connecting with guides who have been with you since before incarnation, with aspects of yourself in higher dimensions, with the collective consciousness of all beings supporting Earth's ascension. The support is constant. You're just learning how to perceive it. The restlessness you feel today, that sensation of needing to break free from restrictions you can't even name, this is your soul responding to the sovereignty codes in today's cosmic weather. You're not meant to suppress this energy or channel it into acceptable expressions. You're meant to let it crack you open. Let it show you where you've been accepting cages as homes, where you've been calling limitations normal, where you've been dimming your light to avoid making others uncomfortable. Now let's talk about what happens after tonight's peak, after the Moon-Jupiter opposition creates its maximum tension and release. You're going to find that decisions you've been agonizing over suddenly become clear. Not because the circumstances change, but because your perception shifts to a level where the choice becomes obvious. Things that seemed impossibly complicated will reveal themselves as simple when viewed from a fifth-dimensional perspective. Problems that felt unsolvable will dissolve because they only existed at the frequency you're leaving behind. The part of you that's been trying to figure everything out mentally, to plan every step, to guarantee outcomes before taking action, that part is about to discover that there's another way to navigate reality. It's called quantum navigation, moving through synchronicity rather than strategy, following energy rather than logic, trusting your inner knowing even when it contradicts everything you've been taught about how life works. This isn't reckless, it's revolutionary. It's how beings navigate when they remember their infinite consciousness. Remember earlier when I mentioned you're releasing grief from all timelines, clearing patterns from all dimensions. Here's why that matters for what you're about to experience. As these old patterns clear, you're going to start experiencing bleed-through from timelines where you're already living your fully awakened life. You'll have moments of knowing things you haven't learned yet, remembering places you haven't been, recognizing souls you haven't met in this timeline. This isn't confusion, it's convergence, all your parallel selves beginning to merge. The impulse to radically change your external life, to move locations, switch careers, leave relationships. This isn't running away from problems. It's running toward alignment. Your soul knows that you cannot birth your new self in the environment that created your old self. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for everyone involved is to stop pretending, to stop maintaining relationships and situations that require you to be someone you're not anymore, to stop enabling others' need for you to stay small. Here's a truth about manifestation that becomes available when you reach this level of dissolution and rebuilding. The things you've been trying to manifest from your old identity, they couldn't come because there was no energetic match. But as you release who you were and embody who you really are, you become magnetic to opportunities, resources, and connections that match your true frequency. You don't have to chase anything anymore. You just have to be authentic and let what's meant for you find you. The physical symptoms you're experiencing, the electrical sensations, the pressure in your head, the heart palpitations, these aren't signs that something's wrong with your body. Your body is upgrading its operating system, installing new software, rewiring circuitry to handle frequencies that human bodies haven't been able to process before. You're becoming a biological antenna for fifth-dimensional consciousness, and that requires significant hardware modifications. Trust your body's intelligence. It knows exactly what it's doing, even when your mind doesn't understand. We're entering the final phase of this story now, where all the threads I've been weaving start to come together into a picture you can finally see clearly. The dissolution you've been experiencing isn't destruction, it's reconstruction at a level so fundamental that everything had to be taken apart first. The choice between paths isn't really a choice, because your soul already chose. Loneliness isn't isolation, it's preparation. The exhaustion isn't depletion, it's integration. Everything that feels like loss is actually recovery of who you've always been. The capabilities I mentioned earlier, the ones that come online when you release your old identity, they're already starting to activate. You might notice you know things before they happen, feel people's emotions before they speak, manifest synchronicities that seem impossible. These aren't special powers you're developing. They're natural abilities you're recovering, things every human can do once they remember. They're not just human, but cosmic consciousness in human form temporarily. Here's what's going to happen as we move through tonight's portal and into the next phase of this transformation. The fear is going to dissolve, not because the unknown becomes known, but because you'll realize the unknown is where you belong, where you've always belonged. The need for external validation will disappear, because you'll be so aligned with your truth that others' opinions become irrelevant. The desperate searching for purpose will end, because you'll realize you are the purpose. Your very existence at this frequency is the mission. The relationships that are meant to be in your life will reveal themselves clearly, and they might surprise you. Some people you thought were forever will fade away gracefully, while others you barely noticed will suddenly become central. Your soul family doesn't always look like what you expected. They might be different ages, backgrounds, locations than you imagined, but you'll recognize them by the feeling of home they bring, by how easy it is to be yourself around them, by how they see you without you having to explain. The work you're meant to do, your real contribution to this planetary shift, It's probably not what you think it is. It's not about a specific job or role or title. It's about the frequency you hold, the codes you anchor, the bridge you become between dimensions. Some of you will do this through art, others through healing, others through simply being present at a certain vibration. The form matters less than the frequency. Your job is to be authentic and let your purpose express through whatever form feels most natural. As for those practical concerns about money, survival, navigating the matrix while awakening, here's what you need to understand. The matrix only has power over the part of you that believes in its limitations. As you step fully into your sovereign self, you'll find that reality becomes remarkably fluid, that opportunities appear from nowhere, that resources flow from unexpected sources, that the universe conspires to support someone who is finally living their truth. This isn't magical thinking. It's quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. The version of you that started listening to this transmission and the version that's hearing these words now are already different. Throughout this message, I've been weaving activation codes into the language, frequency adjustments into the rhythm, quantum triggers into the revelations. You've been transforming as you've been listening, integrating as you've been understanding, activating as you've been remembering. The dissolution that felt like destruction when we began now feels like liberation, because your perception has shifted to accommodate a larger truth. Remember at the beginning when I said you were trying to force yourself back into your old life, but your body was rejecting it like poison. Now you understand why. Your molecular structure has literally changed. Your DNA has activated. Your consciousness has expanded beyond the boundaries of who you were. You cannot go back because back no longer exists at your frequency. The only direction is forward. But forward isn't scary anymore because you realize it's not unknown. It's just unclaimed until you step into it. The grief you've been feeling, the waves of emotion, the inability to maintain pretense, all of it has been preparation for this moment of recognition. You're not falling apart. You're falling into alignment. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself. You're not destroying your life. You're finally allowing it to restructure itself around your truth, instead of forcing your truth to fit into structures that were never meant to contain you. The dissolution is the solution. The breakdown is the breakthrough. That inner voice that wouldn't stop telling you something needed to change. It's quiet now, isn't it? Not because you've silenced it, but because you've finally heard it, finally honored it, finally recognized it as your own soul calling you home to yourself. The transformation that felt optional at the beginning of this journey has revealed itself as inevitable. Your only choice was how much you would resist, how long you would take, how hard you would make it on yourself before surrendering to who you've always been. The cosmic support I mentioned, the guides and star family and higher dimensional aspects of yourself, they're not just watching, they're actively participating in your transformation. Every synchronicity is a message. Every repeated number is a confirmation. Every unexpected opportunity is a door they're opening. You're not doing this alone, even when you're physically by yourself. You're held, supported, guided, and celebrated by forces you're only beginning to remember exist. The isolation was necessary for you to discover this invisible support network. Tonight, as the moon opposes Jupiter in your sky, you're going to feel the culmination of everything we've discussed. The emotional intensity might feel overwhelming, but now you know it's just energy moving through you, clearing space, making room for what's coming. Let it flow, let it reveal, let it transform. Don't try to control or understand it mentally. Your body knows how to process these frequencies. Your soul knows how to navigate this portal. Your job is just to surrender and trust. What happens after tonight will depend on how fully you release resistance and embrace the transformation that's already underway. Those who surrender completely will find that reality becomes almost dreamlike in its synchronicity, that manifestation becomes effortless, that their mere presence becomes healing for others. Those who continue to resist will find the pressure increasing until resistance becomes more painful than surrender. Either way, everyone arrives at the same destination, just through different degrees of struggle or grace. The new identity that's emerging from this dissolution isn't really new at all. It's original. It's eternal. It's who you were before you forgot, in order to have this human experience. But now the experience of forgetting is complete, and the experience of remembering has begun. And what you're remembering is that you're not just a spiritual being having a human experience. You're a galactic consciousness, a fractal of source, a bridge between dimensions, incarnated at this precise moment to assist in the greatest transformation Earth has ever experienced. Your role in this transformation isn't small, isn't optional, isn't replaceable. You carry specific codes, specific frequencies, specific capabilities that are needed now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when you've figured everything out, but now, exactly as you are, in all your messy transformation and uncertain becoming, your willingness to dissolve, to transform, to embody your truth despite the fear. This is your contribution. Your authenticity is your service. Your frequency is your gift to the world. We want to honor every single soul who has stepped into Destiny Engine. With every activation, the current grows. What began as a personal tool has become a planetary force. We are now moving as one, and the frequency you've created together is amplifying far beyond the individual. We're receiving updates daily, manifestations speeding up, impossible doors opening, synchronicities lining up with cosmic precision. The collective field is so charged that some are describing it as bending the fabric of reality itself. If you haven't yet experienced it, the entry point is almost laughably simple. Put on your headphones, press play, allow Destiny Engine to rewrite the architecture of your consciousness so you can fully receive your galactic downloads without resistance. For just $1, you can step into this field and feel the difference instantly. Join the movement that's accelerating ascension. Step into the stream of Destiny Engine today. Link in the description. As we complete this transmission, notice how different you feel from when we began. The problems haven't been solved. They've been dissolved. The questions haven't been answered. They've become irrelevant. The fear hasn't been conquered. It's been recognized as excitement in disguise. The transformation hasn't been completed, but you now understand it's a continuous process of becoming more yourself, and that process is the point, not the destination. You're exactly where you need to be. The sovereignty portal that opened today won't close when the astrological aspect passes. Once opened within you, it remains open, a permanent gateway between who you were and who you're becoming. You can access it anytime by simply choosing authenticity over acceptability, truth over comfort, expansion over contraction. The portal is you, has always been you, will always be you. The cosmic event was just the reminder, the trigger, the permission you were waiting for to stop pretending and start being. Everything I've shared with you today, every revelation and insight and activation, it's not new information I've given you, but remembrance I've triggered. You already knew all of this on a soul level. You were just waiting for someone to speak it out loud, to confirm what you've been feeling, to give you permission to trust what you already know. Consider this transmission, that permission, that confirmation, that activation. You're not crazy. You're awakening. You're not alone. You're connected. You're not failing. You're transforming. Dear Starseeds, dear Lightworkers, dear Galactic Warriors wearing human disguises and finding those disguises increasingly uncomfortable, what you're going through right now is the hardest thing you'll ever do, because it requires releasing everything you've used to define yourself. But it's also the easiest thing you'll ever do, because all it requires is being yourself, your real self, your cosmic self, without apology or explanation or diminishment. The dissolution you've been experiencing has been clearing space for this truth to fully land and integrate. I am Seraphine, and this transmission carries the codes of complete activation, sovereign embodiment, and fearless authenticity. The story that began with you desperately trying to force yourself back into a life that no longer fits has revealed itself as the story of you finally accepting that you've outgrown that life because you've remembered who you really are. The two paths you saw before you have merged into one, the path of inevitability, the path of becoming who you've always been. We love you. We see you. We celebrate every brave step you take toward yourself.